Hey guys, Inka here. I've been out of the music making scene for quite a long time. I don't even recall, several years. But I was dabbling with this tune last couple days, just kind of screwing around to kind of recuperate. I feel like if I stop making music, it's probably not good for my mental health. I find it very soothing and relaxing, and you know, I think it's healthy for me. Anyways, I wanted to go through drums, particularly drums and drum and bass, how to make them not sound like shit. So, uh, you know, early on when I started out, I tended to make really simple drums like this with like some hi-hats, which obviously those just sound empty. The individual components don't sound terrible. They're simple, but the beat as a whole is very empty. So I wanted to go over some kind of real simple tips and tricks on making some good sounding drums. I tend to, in general, when I'm kind of scaffolding or first starting out with my tunes, keeping everything as simple as I can. The most I'll have is to throw on a limiter just to make it sound a little fuller or louder. But in terms of the actual components themselves, really not a whole lot here. I've basically the most used thing I have is just the EQ. And I think here, which some pads or synth, I don't remember what this thing is, but I've got a stereo shaper and just a delay bank, and I stack the EQ on each other. But really, that's the most complicated thing I have now. I keep everything dead simple. It just makes it easier to, if I need to reorganize stuff, it makes it easier long term. I keep things. I don't use a whole lot of VSTs. So, anyways, enough about that. Let's get into the actual drums themselves. So, I'll play this again, and you'll see it's very, very simple. There's not much to it. Your typical two-step beat in drum and bass. So, really the key to making decent drums, in my opinion, is having a good library of breaks and fills and that sort of thing to layer on top of your bass set of drums. So these are always going to be kind of the louder, punchier parts of your beat, but they're not good in of themselves. They sound like crap by themselves. So the key to making good sounding drums is just layering a lot of others on top. And a lot of times what you'll end up doing, and so here, this one I think is the hi-hats mainly, but let's just Okay, so that one's got a few different things in it, but it matches our beat. Let's check this one out. Let's just hear them by themselves, actually. Okay, so that one's really simple. It's got a lot of, it's got some shakers in there, some hi-hats, and then this one. So this one's actually more of a top-end fill. Really, the components by themselves are really kind of hard to pick out compared to these other two. And really, if I pull up the, you can even see it visually in Wave Candy. So I'll look at one of these other fill breaks. So if you look at here in Wave Candy, you can see each snare and kick kind of stand out in its own way, right? You can kind of see these little gaps of emptiness too, to kind of show you that. Now if I pull in this guy, you'll see he's a lot more washed out and just more smooth. And I'll show you why that's important later, but you'll notice on most of these, we're really only capturing the top end. This one's got some mids in it, but for the most part, all of these are really just filling up the top end side of things more. And the reason being is you really don't want to pull in the bottom end, and I'll show you why. Alright, so I'm going to just turn off the EQ on all of these. And just so you know how the actual beat itself sounds again, here it is. Alright, so I'm going to turn off the EQ on all of these guys. And I wish I'd just chained them to 1, but I'm not very organized right now. Okay, so EQ's off on all those. Let's hear it again. Oh, wait. No, that's turning the channels off, not the EQ. Alright, let's try that again. Maybe I won't mess up this time. Alright, so that one. And I promise I used to be a lot faster at this, and I used to know all the shortcuts, but it's been years, so. Anyways, let's hear it. Okay, so one big problem you'll probably notice outright is the kicks sound really muddy and just not good, right? So that's why we usually we gotta let the beat also breathe a little bit. It's just there's just too much. It's too crazy. So I'll turn those back on again, and we can compare once more. Oops. Oh, that one's on already. That one's on. I'm missing one. There we go. There it is. Oh. Well. Whatever. What's going on? Messed something up. What did I do? What the hell? Let's just reload this. How about that? I don't know what I did. I think I moved it to a different channel on accident. Anyways, so yeah, that very simple. Just layer your beats, and it will sound better. You know, obviously you gotta be picky about what breaks you use and make sure that they fit in with the rest of your breaks, but for the most part, I mean, that's the general idea. Now, one subtle thing that I like to do sometimes is, I think it's called a ghost snare, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, the idea, or at least how I interpret it when I'm listening to tunes that use this technique, is it sort of teases the next snare out. I know that sounds weird, but let's give a listen here to okay, so I just have the main drums playing with this. Well, let's just do a different one. Alright, so more hi-hats. Alright, so with the shakers and that playing, you'll hear this guy is kind of really subtle, right? And it kind of teases the next snare out. So if we just, if we leave him out, you see it kind of sounds empty, like something should be there. And I like this snare because it kind of, like I said, it teases it out. And it's very similar to the main snare that we have going on, the only difference being that it's slightly off pitch. So this one's at, its main attack is at a different pitch. So it's slightly off pitch compared to the main snare. And then I usually cut it down a little bit so it decays a lot faster. Because I really want it to be subtle, quick and subtle, and not really, I don't want it to detract from the rest of the beat. Now, it's one of those things where without it, you notice it, if you do a before and after kind of thing, you'll notice it, but if it's not in a track, it's really hard to figure out if there's, if it feels like there's something missing. It's just hard to explain, but I can kind of show you with and without real quick. So here we go. Now with the rest of the beat, it's even more subtle, but here we go. And I'll turn it up just to exaggerate the effect a little more. Now you don't want it, you'll notice it's a lot lower in volume than my main snare, and the reason being is really, like I said, it needs to be really subtle. You don't want it spending too much time around, and it really needs to not kind of detract from the rest of the beat. If it's too loud, it just sounds like another snare off beat in key in this case. So it's a very subtle effect, but I like it. I think it helps fill out the rest of the beat. So yeah, once you start adding other stuff to your song, it sounds a lot better. So yeah, that's all I had for this video. I will be making a second, a much shorter video, hopefully, on a trick with Wave Candy that I think a lot of people don't know about. I've shown a few friends, but I don't think anyone uses it like I do, because honestly, besides your ears, this is the next most useful tool in figuring things out. So yeah, I'm going to cover that here in the next video.